The following episode might contain sensitive content that you might not be comfortable listening to. This will include topics such as self-harm, suicide, alcoholism. If any of these things or anything related might disturb you, please proceed with caution or click off the video now. What makes you feel happy? And quite honestly, what makes you feel as if the regular day isn't, I guess, the common day? If you understand what I mean by that. If you don't, then keep listening, because I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna keep trying to make sure that concept is understood fully. But hello, my name is Hazy. Who Killed Hazy? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Only Rainy Days podcast. In typical fashion, and this is way from past typical fashion. It is super fucking late, and I have nothing recorded. So I don't want to say this is a one take type of situation, even though it always is. But this is a pretty late one nonetheless. But as always, this episode should be named Keep Me Grounded. And I know Keep Me Grounded is a reference to a song that I'm still a pretty big fan of. Used to listen to it a lot during the winter, and just like, I don't want to say, I guess, the holiday times, even though that's just when I figured out about the song. But it's a song called it's by Kill Dill. I know the name. I know the song is 100% by Kill Dill, and I am trying. It's called Blue Light. There it is. I found it, and I'm so happy that I did. The song is called Blue Light by Kill Dill, and it's probably still to this day one of my favorite songs I've ever, just kind of, I don't want to say stumbled upon, because it still is just one of my favorite songs. If I check my Spotify history, it's probably one of my most listened to songs. I'm a very big fan of the song, but honestly, I don't even know where the butt comes from. I don't even know where the butt comes from. There's nothing else to say. It is just one of my favorite songs of all time, and I hope it does not go anywhere, because it's just calming to me in terms of memory and just the song itself. I don't know why I started listening to the song though. I found Kill Dill around that same time, about December 2022, and I started to go through all of his songs, especially during Christmas time, because for Christmas, I go to see family. So I'm usually outside of my house, no computer, no nothing, just experiencing whatever there is to experience. So I remember just listening to the entirety of Kill Dill's discography during the time, and I found Blue Lights, this one of my favorite songs of all time, especially one of my favorite songs from him. And one of the lines that he always repeats throughout the song, it's a very short song, I think about 2.5 minutes, if memory serves me correctly. He talks about and says the exact line, "Keep me grounded." And I remember that took a, I don't want to say deep toll, but it took a deep toll on me, because the whole song about blue lights, at least from my understanding, is the idea of the internet and just the phone, the computer, anything that emits blue light, taking such an immense toll on his life, where it starts to shift his mindset, and he starts to talk about the financially successful and everything, but it's very clear that the blue lights are taking a control on his mindset, his perception of reality itself. So he talks about keep me grounded from getting too high, because he's getting confused. He's getting surrounded by all these blue lights, and the song resonated with me. It still does to this day. It's 7 to 8 months since I first heard the song. I still think the song is pretty relevant, especially because I find myself as one that is quite surrounded by computers and technology overall. It's getting to the point where I have a basically dent in my hair, actually, from the headset that I wear 24/7, because I wear it for work all the way into work / personal projects, depends on how you want to see it. For distinction purposes, if it's not making me immediate money, aka not employment, I guess, then it is something I like to call a personal project. But it means I'm wearing a headset for about 15 to 17 hours a day. So, and while I have the headset on, I'm always basically within blue light range. I have 2 monitors. I have a drawing tablet if I ever decide to draw. I have a separate laptop if that's what I'm using to work on the clock with. I have my keyboard and my mouse are illuminated or have their own backlights. I have my phone. I'm always in the presence of lights, especially blue light, because I'm always usually staring at a screen. So a song talking about just, essentially the amount of blue light I'm taking in is fucking up my perception and my progress with life. I really did fuck with the song, but I thought about it more and more, especially during the vacation, because in general, there's a very important part about just the main line, or one of the main lines he says throughout the song is, keep me grounded. Keep me grounded. Keep me grounded. Keep me grounded. It's a very important statement. It's a very important question. And every now and then, whenever I hear the song, I start to make sure I do just as mentioned in the song. I start to try to keep myself grounded. I wrote a little bit of notes down for this episode, especially because it's super late on my part. One of the things I wrote down is this concept of environmental memory, which, just to make the statement, to just mention what the statement is and then go into it, essentially make it easier, is trying to have memories about the things around you, your environment. If that is an issue to yourself, if that is something that is not a good feeling, and I know that feeling, well, I know as much as I can, but there are some things in my house and just in general, which is not a relatively nice thing to remember, then by all means, ignore what I'm saying. But in general, environmental memory, especially keeping me grounded, is just understanding or asking yourself questions about the environment around you. You don't even need to have answers, but to have such dedicated deep dialogue with yourself, essentially, about what you're seeing and what you're experiencing, is a way to kind of find a grounding source. So I think I got about 2 different examples here. So the first one is, I remember when when the COVID-19 quarantine was like still at peak, so about early 2021 or something like that. I remember I would used to take walks. I used to take walks outside just to get some fresh air, get away from family, and I didn't have to wear a mask because there was no one around me. So it was like a perfect feeling. I would just walk around. And by early to late 2021, anything like that, that is about a year to almost 2 years of essentially being in my house. Especially being one that used to never be in my house. I was on campus for a whole different school, doing a lot of different things, being essentially randomly summoned back home to just, I guess, progress life as it is, was quite the shift for me. So being able to just, I'm gonna go on a walk and just escape was a good feeling. Helped me stay in touch with the fact that my life isn't just in my house now anymore. So I stare at a lot of things. I used to take walks a lot in the winter as well. So I'd see a lot of different things. I see a lot of weird things, different things, depends on how you see it. The most important part is to just question what you see around you, because when you start to get into the habit of questioning things and questioning environments and aesthetics, you start to fully understand where you are. Because sure, let's take you outside. All right, middle of December, it's just a snowy day. Do you see the same things I see? Because if we saw the same things, or even just a fraction of the same things, we would have a different appreciation. We would fully start to understand where we are. If I say I want you to imagine a snowy or a rainy day, in a day that makes you fully comfortable, what do you see? Some people might see walking around in the snow or the rain with a friend, with an umbrella or no umbrella. Some people might see it as a day to just sit inside and watch and listen to the rain, watch the snow fall down. What do you fully understand about that day, though? Some of the walks I took in the winter of 2021 and things like that were in the snow. I asked myself so many questions. Some of the footprints in the snow that were almost fully concealed due to the amount of snow coming down. Who were those people? What were their shoe size bigger than mine? Where were they going? Are those footprints coming towards me or away from me? I used to walk about a mile out from my house. Was like, I don't want to say a plaza, but there was like a intersection full of different stores, things like that. So I'd always look around. Someone just took an illegal left turn out of the local Burger King. I wonder what they're doing. Why are they deciding to make such a dangerous decision? Why is that person speeding? There's so many snow tracks. There's so many tracks in the snow going from this left turn towards the direction I just walked in. Are they living in my area, or are they going past? Why do some of these cars seem to be going so fast? Why is the letter R in Burger King, in the Burger King illuminated sign, out? So now it basically spells Buking King, like, or Bucking King. Like, what's the point of that? You know, trying to find understanding of, or not even understanding, but just really hyper fixating on your reality and hyper fixating on things that you see is in a beautiful way of just keeping track of where you are. Even in my house, because I've spent a good amount of time in this house recently and just in general, I'll see a lot of there's moments where I'll see something very small and realize that this still is a piece of memory, even if it's honestly and self-admittedly pretty useless. It doesn't serve any purpose, but I just remember, it's just like, oh, I know why this exists or where this exists. Like, there's like maybe one or two little spots throughout my house about hip level for me where it's like purely white, like really small spots. And it's not because someone fucked up the paint, or it's not because someone didn't paint properly, but someone, like, it's like a little hole in the wall. Like, oh, you know, someone hit the wall in a fashion where you can see the color of the drywall, but it didn't, like, you know, make a big crack. Oh, I wonder what happened there. Hint, it's me. There's moments where, because I usually vacuum around the house in rooms that have carpet, where in the midst of trying to back up the vacuum cleaner to hit every single spot of the carpet, it hit the wall, and now there's a little, like, dent and a little bit of white there. You can find that in so many different rooms. There's sagging of paint and in certain areas because I used to grab the corner there to turn the corner faster. So if I was running in the house or trying to get somewhere, you know, you grab the corner of the wall. That way you have a pivot point and you turn faster. Some paint in this house is a little bit messed up because of that. Laundry baskets hitting the wall. There's always small little markings in essentially any area that you have lived in for a bit of time. It's not on purpose necessarily, but you just kind of know. And trying to remember them whenever you see them is a good way of just making sure that you truly know where you are. It keeps you grounded, because there's always some stupid little story. Back when I used to live on campus, if I walked into my old dorm room, the amount of different small little holes I would see on the wall because of all the tacks I used to hang up flags and posters, some tape that shouldn't have existed there, the fact that the toilet paper handle didn't fully fit on the wall or was too tight at times because you used to just take it off for fun or just whatever. It's the small memories that really count, whether it be with someone or, the memories in itself. Because the memories in itself just remind you that you are human. It reminds you that you are human. You experience a lot of weird different things, not only just for, I guess, quote unquote, storytelling purposes, but you're not just the same. You're not the same person. If you're the same person from someone, then you'd actually just be them. Doesn't matter how many parallels you see between your life and someone else's life. There is truly just some type of difference. Small things, big things, doesn't matter. You're a different person. But keep me grounded, man. Wrote down so many different things here, and I don't even know how much of them I will actually touch, because at least with this episode, I didn't really know exactly what field I wanted to touch when it comes to the idea of not knowing. Fuck, there's no other way to put it. I didn't know what to talk about when it comes to the terms of not knowing. End quote. End statement. End statement. Right there. Because sometimes, I just have my quick little moments where I don't know what's going on and I just don't know what I'm doing, and I try to realign myself. And other times I have moments where it's similar but on a grander scale. Those moments where you don't have a clue what you're doing. In general, dissociation at its peak. What am I doing? Who am I? Where am I? Is this important to me? Why is this important to me? Everything just kind of goes out the window. And I know when I was writing this down, or this idea down, that was one of the greatest questions I had for myself. Something I always tried to challenge. I didn't know what I was doing with myself. There was no definitive answer. Even though I was working towards something, I wasn't certain enough. I wasn't confident enough in that idea to say that was even what I was working towards. It felt as if I was making progress without actually making progress. I was kind of just floating around, and whether I was doing something to prove it to myself or someone else has to find that answer. I had no clue. I was completely lost. And I know that's where I was in 2021, 2022, basically. So what do I do? What do I do with this prompt where I'm being daunted by a sticky note that only says the words keep me grounded in a lot of different ideas about how to take it. Well, and how I like to approach things is essentially it is what it is. Fuck it, we ball. Because I'd be a damn liar if I said I actually knew how I want to go about this. Something on this list is very important to me, though. And I think especially when I talk about the idea of keep me grounded and being happy, being certain in what you're doing has to come from an idea of who you are, who you are, and if you're one to believe in that type of idea, even though you're constantly evolving, who you were, basically. I'm one to believe that every person is constantly evolving, so I do my best to not use previous quote unquote versions of yourself against you. But if I have a bad feeling, a bad taste from you 3-4 years ago, I'm willing to at least try to hear you out, in modern day. Almost doesn't matter what it is. Some things are not forgivable, obviously, or some things are harder to move on past. But if it's something as simple as, I make a certain type of joke, you weren't really liking it, maybe we just don't joke the same. It's not too much to ask of me to just try to listen to essentially who you are now or how you like to joke and see if it goes well. Like, okay, that's not too big of a question. Everyone changes. Shit, who I was 4 or 5 years ago was way different than who I am now. I'm personally a lot thicker of skin. I joke roughly. My friend group shrunk. Everything like that. Like, I'm cool with most if not everything that's thrown at me. But I've had moments where I said things and moments where people threw other things at me that I wasn't in the right mindset, either at the time or in general, to accept, I guess. Jokes just adds some things that were either concerning me at the time. I wasn't in a state where people could just joke about things I was like, stressing and venting about, because it was like 1-on-1 to me. Situations and jokes that just really, my biggest thing was always things that just stabbed at myself. And I mean at myself, things that held core to my personality. There's a difference between someone joking about the fact that I can't learn shit because I was venting about, my grades at the time. Because I think a lot about high school in high school I did really fucking poorly academically. Like, if someone wanted to make a joke about how I'm academically disgifted or ungifted because how much I've been fucking up lately, I could have took it at that time. I could definitely take it for sure now, several years after I've been out of school. But general, I mean, shit, I really fucking struggled with jokes that had to fully deal with my situation. So someone to make a joke about, like, broken households, unhappiness, drug use, whatever. I used to just take the shit like really fucking poorly. To say why, I don't know, but my friends, whenever someone used to joke about that type of shit, not only did I do a poor job of telling people around me that that's something I was dealing with, I didn't want to remember. When I had to remember it, I did a very poor job of trying to keep it in check, because there's truly nothing in this life that you can fully suppress, not remember, ignore, and it'll turn out fine. Everything in life you will have to address at some point, and that's something that I have realized now. The big difference between being grounded and the facade of being grounded is being able to deal with said emotions and feelings and thoughts when you are truly able to. That is the big difference. Because if a lot of things are already happening, if your head's already swirling as it is, you won't be able to understand things as someone who is relatively fine. If you can tell me something and I just think about how it affects me now, and I can just breathe and just have jokes about it, it's a lot different than someone who is still trying to process mental struggles and trauma from a year to whenever, it plays a very, very big part in just being able to take things in and being able to not take things in. Oh God, I pray I just did not lose my thought trend there. But deep breath. But yeah, it takes a certain level of constantly taking on and dispelling your thoughts to be able to stay grounded. If you run from everything, then you won't be able to do anything. If you try to run from every single problem that you have, nothing will be accomplished, because you'll create this one massive mental snowball that will catch up to you. Let me just be completely advisory to you. If you try to run from all in every part of every issue, it will catch up to you. In the same bit, if you try to fight everything head on, especially without the assistance and help of someone around you, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer, and you might find some victory. And if you find victory there, I'll be surprised, but nonetheless, victory is victory, and I'll be happy for you. But mental health in itself is very tricky to deal with, and even with the help of a psychiatrist, a therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist, friend, family, any and everyone that's willing to help, you have to take it piece by piece, because all the people around you can't truly help you dictate what is enough. What is your breaking point? What are you willing to feel? What are you feeling? And can you handle it at this moment? So you have to take it you have to take it basically slow. You take it slow, deal what you can deal with, and try to focus on acceptance. And if it ever starts to break out of that boundary, things start to go haywire, as a mental type of image, when you feel as if your mental systems are being hacked, there's a Trojan, there's a rat going on in your computer, and you're losing your mind, you don't know what to do, the most important thing you can do is realign yourself with how you're feeling. It's a thing for, it's either panic attacks or heart attacks. I believe it's actually a little bit of both. But usually whenever I recognize that I'm either losing my own mind or someone around me is losing their mind, I try to get them to start focusing on the things around them. It's like a quick little exercise to get people to realize that there's more to the world than just their head, which is a weird statement, but it's an important statement, because panic attacks are in their head. If you can pull them out of their head, then you can help them start to breathe. When they start to breathe, they start to realize their thoughts are starting to become manic. They start to think irrationally, start to think sporadically. They start to make bad decisions and start to have bad thoughts. So to be able to pull them back into reality in itself is very, very important. So I usually have this like little fun exercise that I do with both myself. Honestly, I have no shame in talking about it, as well with people around me, which is it's a little bit of an improvisation, but I usually tell them to name me 3 objects that they can see around them, 3 colors that they can see, and 3 things that they can feel. And I always try to urge that all those different things are different. So let's just start right from the top. What are 3 colors that I can see right now? I can see the yellow on the wall. I can see the blue of a straw box in the corner of my room. and I can see the red on the browser of my computer. All right. What are 3 things that I can feel? I can feel the tactileness of my keyboard. I have my keyboard in front of me. I know that I have this plushie in front of me. It's very soft, and I can touch my drawing tablet. Those are 3 things that I can feel. So I have 3 things I can see, 3 things I can feel, or 3 colors, 3 things I can feel. And then honestly, I already forgot, and I feel so bad about it. But I just need 3 other things that I can experience. That way I know that my life is more than just what's in my head. Because you can always just, go more and more into whatever topics you bring up. The idea is just, it's grounding yourself. How many things does it take to mention about your real life situation to the point where you start to realize that I should get out of my head? Because I have so many moments. I've had so many moments, and I've seen it in others where you just start to think. You start to think, and it snowballs out of control. It can be something as quote unquote simple as, what does my future look like? Like, where do I see myself by the end of this year? Shit. Where do I see myself at the end of this year? Where do I see myself at the end of 5 years? Where I see myself in 5 years actually who I want to be, what I want to be doing? Is this okay with my family? Is this okay with who I want to be with, and my actual personal interest in terms of romantic partners? Will I find a romantic partner that I can figure this out with? Can I find them now, or should I wait until I'm done with, building my career? What is this career actually fully sustainable for me, or is it just happiness? Do I care about happiness, or do I care about happiness? Sustainability or happiness, excuse me. The amount of questions you'll have in life is truly quite infinite, if you ask me, because I can go on about questions forever. Hell, not to expose the field or anything like that, but psychology and therapists as a whole are essentially people who are very good at asking you questions about your life. They're also very good at pulling you out of logical faults, and essentially just whenever you start to overthink, they're pretty good at calling you out on it. But therapists are essentially just really good thinkers about life, but there's still a balance with it. There's a lot to think about, but if you don't have a solid answer to it, and especially a solid answer that if you have a solid answer to something and you refuse to actually accept it, then there's no point thinking about it either. I was thinking about it earlier, and I don't remember fully why, but I was thinking about grief. I was thinking about grief lately, and just losing somebody or something around you. I guess losing a family member, losing a friend, losing a pet, to be honest. One of the best things I don't want to say best, because that's streamlining something that doesn't, you're streamlining something that you can't streamline when you say the word best. But I was thinking about the road to recovery and acceptance, and when I was thinking about it, there's no quote unquote right way to go about it, no quick way. There's no estimate, because the estimate is how much does your emotions control your thoughts. That's about it. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It depends on the situation. I don't think it's a bad thing if in general your emotions control your thoughts. That's fine with it, but the easiest way to get over the best way, or what will happen, I guess, when it comes of getting over morality and just the sadness of losing someone that you care about, or losing something that you care about, is realizing the good times you had, as opposed to stressing and worrying about the good times that you could have had. The wording really matters. And the way as you talk to yourself about it is also plays a part into it. Because if you always remind yourself that it is no longer, but you had, past tense, is very important, as opposed to talking to yourself as if it is there, then having to remind yourself that it isn't. So if you lost a pet recently and you walked past a dog park, it's a lot better to say, oh, this is where we used to take walks and play around, and we would always have the biggest sticks, to give your dog, as opposed to saying, oh, this is the place where I should have been able to take, so and so here and give them a big stick and have these moments. You have to take things in as what they are. And it's a harsh, painful, but true reality of life, and it keeps you grounded, because some people get very trapped in loss because they start to, I don't want to say worry or, unwillingly worry, because it is a very stressful situation, and I recognize that. But some people get stuck on the idea of what could have been without truly recognizing what is. And I guess that's the whole thing of staying grounded. Not thinking about what could have been, not thinking of ideals, finding the best, or at the very least recognizing what is around you, is how you can start to take advantage and take control of the things around you. Because, especially with like my house, the house I live in right now, and things like that, there's a lot of markings and memories of areas, either patched or no longer patched, or has never been patched, that brings me memories of terrible situations. The situations I'm not going to go in detail with, at least not for now, or not at this moment, but sometimes you walk past a certain hallway, a certain doorway, and you remember what happened there. And you tell yourself, or you remember, holy shit, that was a very fucking bad, that was a bad night. That was a bad moment. That's something I wish I never have to experience again. And it's okay to remember even the bad feelings and recognize that that's not what you want. I don't think that there's a problem with it existing in the first place, obviously, but I don't think understanding, remembering, and recognizing that that's a feeling, a memory that you don't want to reciprocate, remember by any means, then I think that's still a good thing. It keeps you grounded. It did happen. Let's remember that. Let's understand that. It did happen. How did it make you feel? I don't want to feel it ever again. That's a pretty clear-cut feeling, quite honestly. Okay, it happened. I don't want to feel it again. What can I do to make sure I don't feel it again? And right there, you know how to progress and feel better about yourself. You know how to progress, feel better about yourself, do better for your sake. And quite honestly, you'd be surprised with memories like that, how much it might help someone else around you. Oh, fuck. That made me think of one thing. And honestly, I guess I'll bring it up before I decide to close out here, because I think I'm running out a little bit here, running out a little bit of steam. But I remember the first relationship I ever got into. I'm talking to them, and I'm trying to get a good feel about them. I rushed into the relationship. I'm not going to lie, but at the same time, I was still very committed. We spent about 8 months. We spent 8 months together before we broke off, and we only broke off because I was incapable of keeping up a relationship with everything else I wanted to pursue. That's on me. I understand that, and nonetheless, I still took the relationship very seriously. But I remember one of the things that we talked about, especially when we first got together. I think even before we made it official, was the fact that their upbringing wasn't the smoothest necessarily, or they keep it very simply, they experienced a lot or more than enough yelling in their upbringing that they didn't want to experience it in their relationship. So, domestic disputes, I guess, is the easiest way to bring in that type of topic. So, mom and dad, or just, you see your parents or something like that. Everyone's just screaming at each other. And it seems like nothing gets dealt with easily. They made it clear that they dealt with that and they really didn't like it. And quite honestly, through self-reflection of my own, I really didn't like it myself. So I took that moment and made sure that everything I did was based on it. It didn't matter how much the problem bothered me, even though we didn't have moments like that. It didn't matter what it was, because relationships are meant to be me and that person versus the issue, not anything else. I kept myself grounded in that idea, because not only for them, but for myself, because I felt I dealt with the same issues. I did not want to replicate, emulate those same type of problems and issues onto them, let alone in general. That was the one thing I kept myself 100% grounded to. It didn't matter what went on in that relationship. The one thing that I held true to myself was the fact that I was not going to yell at them. I didn't want to yell at them for myself and my own sake. I also didn't want to do that for their own sake. We made that very, very clear. That was our grounding. That was our middle ground. I mean, it worked, because I never yelled. That was the reality that we decided to make sure that was never crossed. Even if things started to get a little heated, or, it was clear that any conversation that was going on was very close to one another. We made it very clear, and then each party decided to, whatever party needed to, would try to de-escalate or make sure that it didn't get to that portion. Get to that part, that story, that portion. We didn't want to. There's no point in being in a relationship and trying to cause damage to each other. We're both there to try to keep each other sane, as well as we're just trying to keep ourselves sane in general. So we just take our deep breaths, and we will just, if it got too terrible, we just try to suggest, can we just talk about this another moment? And we just try to be there for each other. And that's a practice that, one, I underrated up until I decided to break it apart. But two, one that I have been thinking, it's a practice I've been exercising myself, and I hope you do for yourself as well. If things start to get too bad, realize you don't necessarily have to, you don't have to find answers, especially answers that might not exist immediately. Take an honest gauge, because sometimes you will realize that you don't have to get the answer immediately, but you'll randomly stress yourself for time and you'll try to find the answer immediately. That's not the case. Just take your breather. Take your moment. Find out what the situation means to yourself without action, and then figure out what it means with action on your part. After that, weigh your options if there's any difference, and then just decide what course of action might be the best for you. But nonetheless, you need to breathe. You need to breathe. All right, because you don't breathe, you're gonna make a very fucking terrible decision. I'm just gonna keep that honest. You will make a terrible decision if you try to make some type of decision, some type of change, whether it be for yourself or for others or for both. Every good decision comes with thoughts. Just Take time, process how it will feel and how it will affect you and others around you. But most importantly, just for the sake of either progress, catching up, anything like that, make sure that you keep yourself grounded, please. First and foremost, make sure that you understand any of the consequences and the potential benefits from each action. Make sure you take in events that happen to you, both emotionally, but as it is. If you lose someone, if you lose a pet, emotionally it's gonna feel like hell on earth, and I understand that. It's gonna feel like pain, and your natural circumstances, the cycles that you go through in life, your routine, there it is, your routine on life will be changed if you lose a pet or a family member. And emotionally, that's to be understood. It's not the same, or you'll start to realize moments where it's not the same anymore. But at the same time, the only way that you not only return to normal faster, but it is just for the better, is take in what it was without it affecting what it is. Remember the memories without it actually affecting what you're doing at the moment. If you lose a pet and you go past the dog park, don't remember, or don't stress yourself about the moments you could have had with your pet in that park. Walk past it, and while you're walking past it, remember all the good times that you had with your pet at that dog park. And that's the same thing I do every single day to basically avoid breaking down at memories, because I try to do my best, and I will do my best consistently to keep myself grounded with reality. One of the deepest, harshest heartbreaks I've experienced in my life, and it will stay this way essentially until the end. I remember losing my grandma on my father's side, and she is a beautiful person. She is a beautiful person that I lost a couple years ago. And so many things happen in my life where I always remember about her. I still wear a necklace to this day. It's a cross, a Christ necklace, because I knew that she was big into religion. I wasn't big into it. She didn't care, because that was still her thing. So I got this Christ necklace after she passed. It always in remembrance of her. But so many things happen in life where I get reminded of her. Whether it just be something as stupid, or quote unquote stupid, as making microwavable pancakes in the morning, and just remembering her trying to make them for me when I was way younger, having a little bit too much ice cream, or even just popsicles in the fridge. She would always try to get me some of that shit. On the past, every year we celebrate her memorial by getting a 12-pack of Pepsi. It depends on the year, but sometimes we would get a 12-pack of Pepsi cans, a lemon cake, and we would order Little Caesars deep dish, because she used to do that all the time whenever we would come and visit her for Christmas, because we would always come to see her for Christmas. We would always visit out, me and my nuclear family, my super close family. So like me, my mother, my father, I have an older brother. We would always go out there. That was something that we always used to do. That's something she always used to do every single year, even in sickness, because as she got sicker and sicker, the candy canes would start to disappear, the tree would disappear, the lights would start to disappear, but she would always make sure that there was Pepsi, some type of flavored oatmeal or pancakes. There would always be Little Caesars, and there was always this pound cake in the center of her kitchen table. And honestly, even whenever I start to lose this shit, I always think about that shit. I always think about the shit that she did for me and my family, because it's close memories. It's close memories. It's good memories. Because not only did she always care, it's a good feeling. Because getting off of a long ass road trip to cake, soda, and a woman into a grandma that always tried to do her best for you, it was just a great feeling. So even at this time, whenever I get into really terrible ruts, I grab my necklace, feel the cross, and remember some of the things that was like hallmarks for my grandmother for me. And even if I didn't have that, I try to remember everything, any and everything, to keep me grounded in reality. Remind me that life isn't some desolate piece of shit reality that I have to be forced to be dealt with, or just deal with in general. On the moments of bliss I felt on walks, on the weird intricacies that I can see, have experienced, and have even maybe played a part into around my house or around my neighborhood. Any and everything. Anything I consider a good memory. We take those into part. We take them into mind. It makes us who we are. It makes us happy. We need them. We need them because it reminds us that we are human. It reminds us that we sometimes make mistakes, and other times we have our triumphs. It's the yin and yang factor of life. It's always good, but it's always in our lowest points where we start to forget that we're doing well, or we have done well, and good things have been dealt to us and have been experienced throughout our lives. So it's always a very important part to just take that time to remember, take that time to think about what's going on, what has gone on. Something bad has happened. Remember the memories. Try your best to not be focused on what could have been, but what has happened. But most importantly, and throughout any and everything in life, make sure to keep yourself grounded.